when Chinese name runs, okay, usually if it's, let's say, a single Chinese name running, right, we can kind of sort of put all of our attention onto this particular ticker and hope that this particular ticker actually flows well. Just like how it is when we trade other tickers as well, right? When we trade other tickers as well, if there's only one ticker moving, let's say stock A, right, every single person, every single volume in the market will be converged and focused on this to give us that nice move, right? And you know, if you have more tickers into the mix, right? You add more tickers into the mix, right? A, stock B, stock C, stock D, then you know there's gonna be a lot of back and forth between each other. Okay, before you know, with time, if let's say this thing breaks down, this thing breaks down, this thing breaks down, then it'll be easier for us to be like, oh, okay, you know what? Stock A is gonna be the winner. But you see, before all these starts breaking down, right? All these tickers over here have equal opportunity to go crazy, and these ones could just die instead. So that's why you know there's really no point in trying to figure out which ones are going to be the ones that are going to run at the end, because don't forget at the end of the day, there's also a given possibility that all four of them will just die, right? So this thing just goes up, this thing goes down, this thing goes up, right? This thing goes up, and then this thing goes down, and this thing continue going higher, this thing goes down. So you see there's a lot of roller coaster, there's a lot of back and forth going on when we have Chinese names running the market, right? That's the reason why today I know, you know, a lot of you guys over here, right? You guys are new to trading. Maybe you guys are very used to looking at big moves in a short period of time. I'm not saying that that's not going to happen, but as of this current moment, when we have UCAR, when we have HTCO, right, flowing, it's very difficult to kind of know which is going to be the winner at the end of the day, right? Let's say this is right now, this is YAAS, this is HTCO, this is UCAR, right? If these two don't break down, right, how is this? There's a chance that this thing don't go, because there's a chance that this YAAS breaks down and UCAR goes crazy, right? And then maybe these two dies and HTCO goes crazy. Because as of right now, right, we have no confirmation of them breaking down, but we also have no confirmation of them breaking out, right? It's just a lot of back and forth, you know, base hit movements across the board because there is no focus, right? This is usually how the price action works uh for Chinese names, right? This is usually how the price action works for Chinese names, right? So this is the reason why, again, I think, very important for you guys to once again have your expectations aligned to the market, right? Don't be expecting crazy moves just because the market has been hot last week, right? Because always don't forget what this is something I always like to say, right? The market is hot until it's not, okay, and the market is slow until it's not. You will never know when the market starts switching down. And also, it doesn't help the fact that this is a new week as well. And new week usually means new theme, right? No continuation from last week. Okay, this could be a completely new theme in the market. As of today, there is actually no clear theme given in the markets. It's just purely Chinese names running. I don't consider that a theme. I don't really want them to be a theme as well, because again, they don't bring focus into the markets. There's a lot of back and forth scalps here and there, which I'm not really that much of a huge fan of. Where I like to really position myself in with just 1-2 trades, and hopefully that 1-2 trades go up. But when you have all these Chinese names running back and forth, right, you can't really do that. You see, for example, YAAS, earlier just now, right? We'll talk about some of the trades and stuff, right? So let's take a look at the first few trades for YAAS over here. And again, I'm not very optimistic about my PTs and stuff today, because I understand that this is a Chinese, I've been looking at the market and understand this is a Chinese little setup for today, right? So I don't want to be too zealous with my PTs, right? So first off, let's take a look at ELPW. Now, ELPW is a very simple setup over here. All right, ELPW is a very simple setup over here, right? We have a so this ticker was a runner last Friday. All right, this ticker was a runner last Friday, and let me just remove all the drawing sets over here so it's easier for you guys to see. All right, so this ticker was a runner last Friday, right? It made an impressive move, but you know what's surprising? Okay, what's actually shocking is that it didn't liquidate, but instead made a very strong overnight move back to 420s. Right? If you guys realize, we never actually lost structure, right? So the uptrend, clearly in the morning has been very well established over here, right? And also, if you guys were to look at this on this particular part, okay, I will just want to draw your attention to this over here, right? right, on this particular portion over here, it is resembling a little bit of a cup and handle setup as well. Okay, it is resembling a little bit of a cup and handle setup as well. Okay, so once we have a downstream breakout on this particular setup, okay, which is well 418, right? And we also have a very nice flat top over here at 425, right? You can see that this 425 on the 50-minute chart is well very crucial onto this ELPW. And that's also the first one of the reasons why, again, this is the one that I told you guys to look for volume for scalps. And I think if you guys were to listen to my voice message, I did also tell you guys that, you know what? Either you wait for the 425 breakout or if you can get nice dips near 380s with wicks, which is the bottom of this trend line, okay, on the 15-minute chart, right? You can take your entries and scalp it. By the way, we should be green on HTCO right now off the dips and whatnot. I'm gonna start trimming just a little bit, all right? Those are great dips at like 18s, Let's see whether we can get 30 plus and stuff. Okay, I mentioned to you guys, okay? I did mention to you guys, right, for HTCO, it's a lotto play first off, okay? Right? It's a lotto play doesn't have to be doesn't have to be small. Okay, it could be risk and profits, and you can find all the dips that you can get, which we got the perfect dips over here at 18 and it's back to 28. So let's see whether we can hit new highs, maybe 40 to 50 end of day if nothing happens. Well, of course, that is really just looking at the historical Chinese price action. Okay, so anyway, back to the topic at hand. So ELPW again, if you have listened to the voice message over here that I put out, right, you guys can clearly see that you guys will know that I did say, hey, you know what? If 380 holds, right, if 380 holds in the morning, okay, see right here, which is this trend line I just showed you guys on the setup right there just now, right? Now, if 380s holds in the morning, you are able to look for your entries off the bounces and have your stop loss on the 380. All right, again, you can, I'm not, this I cannot add it. All right, you can listen to this video again and you will hear me say that. So once you've got the 425 breakout, as you can see right here, right? Once you got the 425 breakout, we got a huge move to 472, which is a great move. I think pre-market itself was pretty much dead before this. So this was actually a pretty nice move so far. Okay, so again, once you're green on the trade, always reach the stops up to keep yourself green, right? Don't turn it red. And then because we can always look back at it again. Now, GOND, this is a setup that I wasn't really around to guide, but I think if you guys were paying attention to this, right, it did actually make a move from 650 to $9. And I understand that some of you guys were actually in this trade and didn't manage to kind of actively watch it and end up being red. Okay, now first off, always remember this, okay? All right, so this is given at 8 o'clock, by the way. There is actually no excuse, right? Because 8 o'clock was right here, right? 8 o'clock was right here at 640s, right? It went to 9 plus. Okay, there's actually no excuse. Now, if you have to step away because, of some emergency or, work commitments and stuff, right? And I understand that in pre-market, you cannot set physical stop losses. If you miss the move, your next best priority is to just cut an entry rather than to hold on to it and recover. Now, I understand it sucks, right, to hold through a position to end up being break even. But you have to understand that you did not break even. You missed the profit run. You missed the 50% or close to 50% bounce. So I'd much rather you cut break even than to hold on to it right now and end up being red. Okay? All right, but this is, I'm not really in this anymore. This is a nice bounce for us. So ELPW, why did I take a secondary trade on this again today? Now, of course, right, when we have this initial move up during the morning, right, price pull back all the way down. If you look at this on the 15-minute setup, okay, I have to look at the 15-minute setup, right, because I was kind of more focused on bigger time frame setups and whatnot. We actually recovered this trend line. Oh, sorry, no, this trend line was actually still holding on. Right, we still have a hole on this trend line over here. You see that? And by the way, HTCO, we are fucking nuts right now. Hey, 35 to 40 next. Let's see. Okay, that's good. All right, so we're still holding on to this trend line over here. Now, this is on the 15-minute setup, right? So I have to look at this or rather zone back down on the smaller time frame, which again you can see, right? Price is bouncing off. Now, this trend line over here doesn't really matter to me too much anymore. So I'm looking at this current setup where I see a uptrend, right? When I see a downtrend breakout, which I got in at 428. I wish I got in at 428 to have my stop loss under $4, 390. Why? Because that's the bottom of my trend line, $4. And we just got a nice move. Right? Honestly, there's not much to talk about this over here. Right? We got a beautiful move over here to 489. So that was good. All right, that was actually good. Now, for then obviously, as of this moment, right, this is the setup that we're playing off. And since it didn't really continue too much, again, not surprising, this is a Chinese name with no news, right? We raise our stops, keep us off green. That's it. Okay, there's absolutely no volume over here because it got overshadowed by HTCO, YAAS, and UCAR. There were three other Chinese names that came up. And again, if you guys remember what I said about Chinese names, okay, they don't run together, right? In fact, when one runs, the other three dies. Or it could be one run up, right? Two dies, right? Then the other two dies. Okay, and then of course this run may not even be as hard as this, and then this thing may run for a bit and then just die, and then this thing may start recovering, and this thing may just die. It's a huge mess, essentially speaking, right? It's a huge mess. Okay, so that was a very nice setup at the start, right? Now the next thing over here is, hold on 1 second, I gotta check some DMs. Still what the hell? Okay, so now the next thing over here is going to be let's see 1 second. ELPW. So SGMT, this is also another one that was very interesting as well. So I think this is one of the very, very solid trade that is non-Chinese as compared to the rest, right? The rest are Chinese, this is non-Chinese and whatnot. So this is very stable. Now, I would say that this is one of the better pre-market movers that we have this morning. This is not a low floater, right? They were running on private placement news. Okay, let me see if it's confirmed. Let me hold on. Please don't annotate. I have to. Hold on. Let me see if I can disable annotations. Okay. Right. So let me see. This is pricing. Announces pricing. And wait, what the fuck? They're running on offering news. The hell? I thought it was private placement. Oh shit. I guess I didn't read it properly. Sorry guys. I was in a birthday party. Okay, doesn't matter. So basically they did an offering, right? They did an offering to raise funds to fund their phase 3 acne trial, so on and so forth, right? But this had a pretty positive reaction to an offering news, which is usually what we don't see, right? So this is immediately on the radar. Now we don't want to chase a move like this. Nothing wrong with chasing. Okay, again, you can see if you chase the move over here at 787, it's still a nice trade, $9, right? But price pulls back all the way. We have very nice consolidation happening before the morning, and you guys can see there's a very clear support level being established over here. Now, wicks off the support level into a huge candle. Look at this, a huge candle, right? You guys see this? Right, an insanely huge candle over here. Now, this tells me that this is very strong. Right? This tells me that this is very strong. Okay? This tells me that this is actually extremely strong right now. But by the way, I want to see whether this is looking good right now. This is looking good right now. Again, it could just be a quick scalp to 239, 240, this is usually how it is with these Chinese names and whatnot. Okay, that doesn't matter. We'll look at HTCO. So SGMT, right? So obviously this is a very, very clean setup, okay? And then, it was basing of a VWAP, so on and so forth. Right now, if we look at this over here on the smaller time frame, you can see that there is a very nice, I haven't really paid too much attention to the particular setup over here because, I was on my mobile, but we have a very nice double bottom support on this breakout move, right? That price is holding above very well. Then we'll consider this as 754. And that's also one of the reasons why my stop loss is under 760. Okay, we had a nice little continuation move off this 21 EMA trend line test, right, into very, very strong bullish engulfing candle over here, right? This is where I started to take my entries and stuff, and I want to take my stops. I want to take dips down to this 21 EMA and have my stop loss underneath the 760 level, which again, you guys can clearly see that was exactly the plan, right? 850 is because, well, if you look at this on the left side, okay, we have a very strong level here at 839. All right, 840, doesn't matter, right? 840. Okay, but then the thing is, right, we also have one over here, right, which is the top of the structure, all right, at 856. So that I want to take like the mean value between these two. All right, I want to take like mean value between these two. And I want you guys to look at the structure as well. Right? Can you guys see that whenever the price hit into these two zones that I just drew, right, it just mostly rejects it until we actually break out from it. That's where we get to see that very nice move, right? Because this is the area where a lot of this is the first top of the structure for us, and then this over here you can see this is just purely resistance until you broke out, right? But if not, it's usually resistance. So this 840 is a super huge level, right? I'm not sure you guys can see this, right? I think it's pretty clear cut over here. I don't really have time to be looking at the daily chart because I was on mobile, but right, you can see. Yeah. Right. So that was usually the first level and stuff. Obviously, if I were to take this at 8.1s, I don't get my dips. I want it at 850 first. But then we got the dips that we wanted. Again, off the 21 EMA trend line. Okay, let me just remove this over here so it's easier for you guys to see. Off this 21 EMA trend line, which the price was bouncing off, right? Just look at this beautiful hole on this trend line all the way. Beautiful hole, right? Extremely beautiful hole over here. Okay, we got our dips. We've got new highs, which is exactly part of the plan. Okay, now I do want to say that this setup over here is actually very interesting, right? This setup over here is actually very interesting because well, this is first off, this is not Chinese, right? And the fact that this is actually holding up pretty well, even on offering news, is just shocking. Okay, I am of course already trimmed profits, right? This trade went perfect. It was absolutely beautiful, right? I don't want to turn it green. Sorry, I don't want to turn it red. So I'm looking at this on the 15-minute. And I can see a very askew cup and handle setup forming as well. But then again, don't forget that this is still running an offering news, so I don't want to pay too much stuff into this. This is still running on a very, very solid, I would say, consolidation though, right? But the thing is, if the Chinese names continue to ram, it's going to be very difficult for this to continue running, right? As far as re-entry goes, I'm not that much huge of a fan when it comes down to it right now. I think we had our first run initially already, right? But right now with the Chinese names taking attention away from everyone, I think this is just something that if you're still in this with me from the initial ads, you can always just write this. But re-entries wise, I think it's too early to say, right? We do have a trend line that price is trying to respecting throughout today. I'll probably have my stop loss for the remaining under $8 right now. And let it turn green no matter what. Okay. Update this for a while. Hey, yo, we're at 3480. Let's go. Hey, shit. Hold on 1 second. Wrong ticker. What's the other one? SGMT. We're 35 right now? Not. Yeah, I'll explain to you guys what Lotto is later. So for you guys can understand, right, what does Lotto actually mean, so on and so forth. Um, okay. So that's you see what I mean by UCAR, right? I wanted to take it just now, but what did I say? This could just be a quick scalp to this, right? It's not worth it. Look at this, right? Why? Because again, you have one fucking random Chinese name running over here. You see? Okay, no matter how good something looks right now, right? It's downstream breakout, whatever. Okay, some other Chinese ticker is running, right? And that's where your volume is, your attention is being distributed. It's not fun, to be trading in a market day when there are like multiple Chinese tickers running. Okay, obviously it's gonna be. I tell you, if everything holds structure and the ticker that we're actually in, right, holds structure while the other two Chinese tickers dies off, it's going to be very fun for us. Okay, potentially speaking, but in the midst of it, right, when we're trying to go through the back and forth, it's not fun. You can find basic scalps. Like for example, if you add this over here at 220, okay, don't be aiming for like 250, 260. Because again, look, you have to respect this over here, this candle, right? Price at this went down. Okay, I think if HTCO it wasn't here, if YAAS actually broke down, it would be a lot better for UCAR to flow. But that's not the case. And we have to respect that. You have to respect it no matter how much you want it, right? Because this is how the market works. This is how the market operates. Okay? All right. So let's see 1 second. So there's that, right? It's just that today it was just more of like the Chinese stuff going on, right? It's just a lot of back and forth, so it's not there's not much anything with really like true focus, right? So now YAAS is also another one. Okay, Chinese name running on Catalyst this morning, right? Very beautiful consolidation happened as well, and then over here this thing just kind of broke out. Now, one thing I love about this over here as to why I took it was at 155 at 947 is because, which is right on this candle over here, 947, this one, right? So price broke out. Okay, price hit. You can see this over here, resistance, right? But we would incorporate every sort of like action that happens from the morning all the way to pre-market. I would say that this box is kind of like my resistance zone that I want to see the price flip as support. Okay, if I want to remove the EMA lines over here, okay, you can see the price went down, former wick, volume came in. Right now, you can see that price is basing on this. And then we bounce off, and that's the reason why I took my entries over here at 155 when I was typing into this for you guys. Again, because again, I understand that ELPW was running, right? And this point in time, HTCO was also flowing as well. I didn't want to be too overzealous with my PT, so that's why I told you guys I was looking for 165 to new highs potentially, and we got new highs. But what happened? It wasn't sustainable. Price went back down. Why? Because there were other Chinese things running. Again, it's usually how it is. Obviously on the first part of the move, right, when news first came in, this is just fresh. But then after that, in terms of continuation setups, right, proper setups to trade, you can't trade this off the news run. Obviously, you can get lucky, right? Sometimes you can get lucky and the prices continue going higher for you. But what I'm trying to tell you guys over here is that when you're trading off news, it's usually either hit or miss because some news they don't pop like that. Some news they pop and they just make new lows. Okay, news are not proper trade setups unless there is a clear market theme, right? Unless there's a clear theme in the market telling you, okay, right? Yesterday there was a ticker that ran 200% off acne treatment, right? And then today there's another ticker doing acne treatment. Algorithms will push that stock, and then you can pretty much just snap the news over here. But this is the first day of the week. We don't know what news drives stocks. Right? We don't know. There wasn't any, from what I can see pre-market, there wasn't any sort of news that drives stocks as well, right? There wasn't any sort of need to drive stocks as well. Okay, so once after that, we have a nice little setup over here. Let me show you guys, right? Did I finish YAAS? So YAAS, yeah, so you can see it's just a quick scalp, long upper wick. We don't want to see that. Price pulled down, no buying pressure after. We just lost structure. And again, if we continue to look at this over here, right? I did tell you guys again, I'm not looking for any sort of like big moves. Okay, I just want to look for quick scalps first. They're all mostly base hits. Okay, so 148, 10:31 a.m. Eastern, right? Which is right here. 10:31, right? This one, I added 148. I told you guys not to slap it. Price went up to 157. Price pulled back to 148 for your entries. And we got a nice move to 164, which was, again, I was very conservative because I understand this market right now has too many Chinese names running and there's just too much. There's going to be too much back and forth right now. Okay, if we hold on to structure over here and HTCO starts dying, UCAS starts dying, we could make a new highs move later. Right now, I'm in profits. Right, I'm in profits right now. So all I have to do right now is raise my stop from 135 to 142, which I've said multiple times, and let it play out because we don't control the market, right? I don't know what's going to happen next. I don't know whether the Chinese team is going to run. I don't know which Chinese is going to run, right? The stop was under 142 right now. We're going to be green regardless. Okay, I'm just going to let it play out because one thing I love to see about this is the fact that HTCO is going crazy, right? UCAR went crazy earlier, but the good thing is that we never lost structure. So there's a lot of back and forth, yes. but we never lost structure over here. So why do I have to cut? Because if, let's say, UCAR going up couldn't even broke us down, what do you think will happen to this when UCAR breaks down? What do you think will happen to this if HTCO breaks down? There's a higher probability of us continuing higher, right? Obviously, provided the fact that there are no new Chinese stickers that's going to come to the picture, you know? But there, so long as the structure doesn't break down, okay, and we're buffered with profits, we can just let it play out. We might get my 160, 170 later, but if not, it doesn't matter. I'm going to close the rest on the 142. I'm still going to be green. Nothing big, right? But there's two basic trades, which all adds up. Okay, just again, because today's market condition is just like that, right? Why would we really consider re-entries at this as of this point? I think there's just way too much cyclical action between all these Chinese names. I don't think it's worth it right now, right? And also because I'm pretty much done for the day already. So, and again, tomorrow's gonna be a new day of opportunities, but I just don't feel like it's worth it. Take it to 150, it pumps to 158, and it starts chopping, and maybe later this even covers. It's just too much uncertainty happening in the market. All right, that HTCO and UCAR may just be paying a lot of may just affect this flow. Now, of course, if we take away HTCO and UCAR attention away and we just purely focus on this as a trade setup, right, just based on the technicals and whatnot, then I would say this is actually a pretty nice setup still, right? This is actually still a very, very nice setup. At least, on the 15-minute, on the 10-minute chart, we have a downtrend breakout. Price is above the 20, is still holding the 21-minute trend line, which also means that if price loses this 21-minute trend line on the 10-minute chart, the current structure is broken. Right? The current structure is broken. But again, there's way too much uncertainty. It's lunchtime, lunchtime is just over, but there's HTCO just making new highs of dips. There's UCAR, that may actually recover later, right? It's just too much stuff over here. But I'll tell you guys right now, with this thing breaking down like that, and with the HTCO making new highs, and we're not breaking down, which is actually still recovering, YAAS probably has a nice structure for continuation. Is it going to be big, right? Maybe it could just be base hits. That's not something I like. Okay, I don't like to alert this as well because a lot of you guys over here seem to have the impression that when I alert something, it has to go 200%, right? And when it hits particular levels, which makes new highs, which even over here, right? If it hits targets, right? It's something that you guys are not satisfied with for some reason. You know what I mean? Right? Like look at this. I was very clear about what to be looking out for YAAS, and we hit 177, but some of you guys are still not satisfied. Yeah. So it's just not worth it for me, but I would say that I'm still in this for some rest of shares. We're buffered profits 148, we hit 160s. I'm still in some, cutting rest on the 142, 145. Well, let's let it play out. We'll see what happens. Because again, right now structure is still holding on. Even when these two were ramping, we didn't break down. So hopefully when these two start showing weakness, we can see some short bit of volume mutation to this to maybe give us more than 1.64 to trim more profits out. Okay, right, for YAAS, for example, right? So okay, let's see what else. Now I'm no longer inside SKLZ. I think this is something that couldn't really shine today because again, where was the volume? The volume is in what? Volume was inside Chinese names. But let's talk about the setup over here. Now in the morning, I told you guys to do two things, right? Keep eyes on this as well for potential day trade inside bar. $7 has to hold for structure to remain intact. 830, 835 to trigger breakout moves, right? I suspect lower volume and spread to be bigger. So have range for stops and play dips if possible. Now, if you guys were listening to my plan over here, I wasn't around to guide, right? There were a lot of nice dips near $7 this morning, around 7.50, right? 50 cents is considered okay because this ticker has a lot of range. Don't forget, this ticker went from $6 to $20. So 50 cents is fine. But why is it that this didn't really break out? A couple of things. First off, Chinese was running. It doesn't fit the narrative of the market, so volume wasn't in here. What drives stocks? Volume, right? Because this is not Chinese, there wasn't much attention to this. Number two, you guys over here have the misconception that just because it's an inside bar means it's going to go crazy. Now, an inside bar only works if the price breaks above 9, this is the inside bar, right? So inside bar only works if the price breaks above this particular candle. Right? So the top, the highest price point of this inside bar. This is the mother bar, this is the inside bar. So, and of course, you also have the support over here at 715, right? Run off the 7. Okay, so obviously for this over here, there are two ways for you guys to play this, right? Either look for ads near 715 for a scalp up because you're adding near bottoms, right? Or you wait for the breakout of this inside bar for entries and have your stops underneath whatever structure it was holding. Okay, but essentially what this is trying to tell you, what the inside bar setup is trying to tell you is that if we don't break this level here, then the inside bar setup is invalidated. You need to break this highs, 922, 920, to confirm the inside bar. If not, there is no inside bar breakout. But you can still find opportunities off the lower part. Bounce opportunities. Don't expect this to go 20, right? At least if you want to even talk about this to even go 10, it needs to at least break this 920 first. Because this is the inside bar structure breakout. Kind of like the same thing as this, right? If we talk about an ascending triangle pattern over here, okay, if you want the price to hit here, it needs to what? It needs to break out from this particular resistance down here, isn't it? Right? But if not, what else? How else can you trade this? You can always look for ads over here and scalp it up, right? Look for ads over here and scalp it up. So same thing. There's not guaranteed that a breakout will happen, but you can still take advantage of the trade by looking for ads near the bottom of the trend line and scalp it up. This is exactly what the plan is over here for SKLZ. As I told you guys, stay dips possible. And again, we did have a nice push to 880s and even this morning all the way to 910. But then again, we couldn't break through the 920 for the inside bar breakout. And there was the narrative of the market didn't really fit this over here because this is not Chinese, so it couldn't go higher. So if you guys understood that, you will not be holding on to this and hoping for a reversal. Right? You guys will respect the plan. Because the narrative of the market doesn't push this thing. Okay? Yeah, so there is that. And the next one, obviously YAAS is a lot of bases. Again, Chinese names are just a lot of back and forth today. So UCAR, again, right over here, you can see, right? The reason why I took this, again, you see, I don't want to take base hits. I really don't want to take base hits. So over here, we have a nice run. Okay, we had a nice run today on this. It was crazy. Now, usually when the ticker runs like that, I don't like chasing it. Okay, so what I want to see is a price to pull back and see whether we can bounce off any sort of key level, right? And clearly at this point, we have this very key level that I like to use a lot is VWAP, for example, that price was holding on. This white line over here, right? It was consulting on it, tapped on it, boom, huge bullish engulfing candle, broke out from this downtrend over here as well, which, was a nice entry. I took my entries on this particular candle over here, 2.55. Okay, right, 2.56, 2.55, and my stop loss is underneath the VWAP level. This white line. Can you guys see what happened when we lost that white line over here? Can you guys see what happened? We dumped, right? Because this is support. Okay, but you see, it was moving good. We made new highs, but there was just way too much stuff going on. YAAS was still holding on to structure, right? HTCO was still holding on to structure, was reversing. UCAR being a Chinese name, it's just not having enough focus because there are other focus. There's a focus elsewhere, right? I don't want to be looking for base hit moves over here, but I'm left with no choice. And by the way, I did not lock any profits over here. I took a loss on the 240, which is fine. All perfectly part of the game, right? But you guys can see what I'm trying to say, right? If there are no Chinese names running today, I have no doubt that this could have a higher probability of going higher. But there is, and we have to respect them, right? We have to respect this. Okay, all right. So there's that. Again, I could have just be done with like fucking ELPW today and just be done for the day and so on and so forth. So right, but a setup is a setup. We still have to try. Okay, so now let's talk about lottos. So lottos are something that I would say first off, guys, whenever I take a trade, okay, baseline is because there's potential. Now, how I size in, okay, after that depends on how risky the trade is, how big, how expensive the trade is. Okay, but baseline, if I see potential in that trade, I'm taking it. So just because it's a lotto doesn't mean it's a shit trade. Because if it's a shit trade, I would have never taken it in the first place. I mean, why would I even put lotto in a shit trade? You know what I mean? You guys understand? Right? Why would I even put any sort of money inside on a shit trade? Right? I will only put money inside a trade that has any sort of potential. Okay? Now we've seen Chinese names do crazy shit in before. Right? I've seen it many times before. Right? I showed you guys last week. ATXG, I called that at 20, and within the same day it went to $2,000. Right? MGRT, I gave you guys lows at $15 over here last year. I closed out myself, but I know some of you guys held onto it. It went to $170. Okay, all these are Chinese names, and Chinese names, if they don't liquidate, they can do crazy, crazy moves. When they start liquidating, that's where this is shit. But if not, they can do crazy moves. Now, the fact that this ticker over here made an insane move up like that. Okay, this is, by the way, this is not tradable. Yeah, this is instant halt. This is exactly not tradable, right? When the ticker makes a move like that, it tells me that there is something going on. And even more so when this thing can actually recover from the first pullback and even make new highs, I don't think this is done. But that's why I took a lotto position. And remember, it's a lotto not because it's shit. It's a lotto because it's expensive, the spread sucks, and my stop loss is going to be very wide. If you can get your entries near the stop loss level, it doesn't have to be a lotto trade. Right? But at the end of the day, what lotto means is you treat it like a lottery ticket, number one. Or if you're green on the day, again, which you should be if you've been following my trades, then you can risk profits. You think about it this way, right? If let's say you're up $1,000 today, okay, when you take this trade over here, you know it's a lotto, you can choose how much you want to lose if it doesn't work out. So this way you're in control of your losses, right? So let's say if this trade doesn't actually work out, maybe you tell yourself, okay, you know what? I want to lose $200 on this trade. At least at the end of the day, you're walking away with $800. Either you walk away with 1,000 and you don't try this risk, okay, which could turn that 1,000 to maybe 1,500, 2,000, or you try it, it doesn't work out, you walk away with 800. To me, this is a win-win situation because there is no actual scenario that you're in. Now let's just take a look at this particular example over here right now for HTCO, right? Original stop loss plan was to have stop loss in 1850. Now, because we halted down below 1850, there was absolutely no way for us to cut over there. What did I tell you guys? I said, you know what? I'm going to continue holding on to this. I'll cut if we lose 1550, right? And I even told you guys, if you can get all the dips that you want. Okay. So over here, let's say, for example, I took a position over here at 26. Okay. And then I added more at 18s, but I'm still risking the same amount of profits, right? I don't want to give my profits back. I would probably have an average, around 22s, right? Now let's say over here at 22s, right? Stop loss under 15. That's going to be a $7 per share risk, right? If I were to buy 100 shares, I'm going to be losing $700 if this trade don't work out. Okay, and let's say if I have a profit of $1,000, it means that I'm going to be risking 70% of my profits for the day, which I will still end up with $300 to walk away with. And if some of you guys are actually okay with this, fine, because that is your lotto. But if you're not okay with this, then you gotta size down. You're gonna have lower amount of shares, right? Maybe you want to risk half of this. Okay, 350, for example. Then you can only have 50 shares at 22. You can only have 50 shares at 22. Because if 22 doesn't work out, right? And let's say, over here you lose $7 per share, right? It goes on to 15. You will lose 350. And at least, sorry, is it 350? Yeah, 350. And at least in this case, okay, right, you will walk away with still $650 a day if it doesn't work out. Now, this 50 shares right now is 22s. Okay, let's say 23, right? It hit 34, 33, okay? 23 minus 33 is $10 per share. You have 50 shares. That itself is additional $500 of profits for you. So in this situation right now, what you're actually doing is that you're risking 30% of your profits to see whether you can actually make more, right? So it's risk-free. It's either you make that amount, you walk away with 650, or you don't try it, you walk away with 1,000, or you try it and take some risk and you walk away with 1,005. You see? Right? So, if you don't risk, you will never be able to try it. That's usually how it goes, right? If you don't risk, right, you will always never know if it's going to work out or not. But we want to be calculative, we want to be strategic about how much we're risking. There's actually no reason for us to give back every single one of our profits or even turn our day red just because of FOMO or just because we don't know how to manage our risk. This is calculated. Remember, it's a win-win situation for me. I either walk away if I don't try, fine. I walk away with whatever I have. But if I want to gamble for a bit, right? If I want to trade some lottos for a bit, because there's potential for this, either I walk away with a lower amount of profit, I walk away with more profits. But to me, you see, right? My end goal is profitable. I am not going to be red, which I'm perfectly fine with. Because if I can't make this setup over here, it doesn't work out, I give back some profits, so be it. Tomorrow is what? A new fucking day. You see that? Yeah. So that's what a lotto is. Again, lottos does not have to be small size. Okay, but especially so if your day is green, or let's say you're really, really green, right? Some lottos could be more than could be risk a lot. Right. I'll give you an example. I think there was one time where we had a great trade for stock, right? That went insane. I was up a couple of brands and stuff, right? I was up a couple of grand, and during the EOD was holding on, but it was a very risky move because it could either just break out or break down. Now let's just say no. I'll give you so I was up with, let's say, $5,000. Right, I was up $5,000 on that trade, for example, and EOD I risked $1,000 for that trade, right? Let's say my entry is at 23, okay, and my stop loss is going to be under 22, right? I risk 1,000 for this trade. I could afford 22, 23, 1,000 shares. I could afford 1,000 shares at 23. Because if it doesn't work out, I lose 1,000. I still walk away with what? $4,000. And guess what? This shit went to $30+. Now that $1,000 of profits that I risk, right? This is true. So I can't remember the ticker, but it actually had really happened, right? The $1,000 that I risked, right, which means I have 1,000 shares, that became additional $10,000 for me. So it's either I walk away with $4,000 because I'm control. Remember, I'm managing my risk, right? I'm controlling my risk over here, or I end up walking away with additional $10,000, which to me it doesn't matter, right? Because if that 1,000 shares that I have, I don't care. I'm still gonna walk away green. So lottos, don't underestimate what lottos can do for you guys, right? Because they're good for you to amplify profits, okay? But if you don't do it right, you'll give it all back. But if you do it right, you're either gonna walk away with more profits or less profits. Okay, you're either gonna walk away with more profits or less profits. That's it. All right. But I would say that we are definitely in a Chinese market, right? SGMT, I think this is the only one of the reasons, one of the ones that I'm still holding on to. Let's see how far we can go here, right? Stop loss on the 8. HTCO, I want to see 40 and $50 over here if possible. I'm really starting to trim my profits over here already, right? Now if we lose $22, I'll close out the rest of my shares or any sort of liquidation move. If not, let's see whether we can get 40 to 50 over here. Maybe some kind of Chinese bullshit move and stuff. Okay, and then UCAR, again, you can see, right? I mean, maybe you can find an opportunity later, but I'm probably going to go to big because I'm really tired today. I think overall, all in all, a pretty good day. And look at YAAS. See what I said just now? Is it worth taking a trade right now? Is it worth it? Unless you guys are sensible enough to know that you guys are only going to be looking for 4 to 5 cents moves, then fine. But I know a lot of you guys will do that, right? I know a lot of you guys over here expect every single trade that I call to go crazy, which I'm telling you guys, no, it doesn't work like that, right? Because look at this. I specifically told you guys, right? Looking for a 165 to new highs, and we hit 177. I even told you guys to raise the stops. But for some reason, you guys still like it, even though the plan was given to you guys clear. So to me, this is just not worth it right now for you guys to alert, right? I decided to say no re-entries. Good to write if you still have the rest of shares with me from the re-entries at 148. But as of right now, nah. It's just not worth it, especially with HTCO able to do this. Okay. All right. So there's not much really to talk about. All right. I'm gonna answer a couple of questions, so on and so forth. What's going on? What's going on with this LK? Oh, oh. I trim, I trim. Of course I trim. Still trim. I think TRT is considered Singapore. It's LK person. I'm gonna ban. Right. See. All right. Yeah, so you can see, look, this is going up right now, right? If you guys understand how a market works and whatnot, I don't use the mosquito scanner, by the way, right? I don't use it. I think it's a little bit confusing. I don't use it, so fuck that. So over here you guys can see, right? It just doesn't make sense for me to taking any other Chinese names if we understand how a Chinese name works. Not right now. Doesn't make sense. Yeah, this doesn't make sense. Okay. And for those of you guys, I see what LK was saying, GLND sucks ass, fish shala, you kind of stake together with this, right? If you tell me that a particular trade over here, right, GLND, okay, when it was the setup was given to you guys, I wasn't really around to give you guys entries, but let's say over here at $6, right? It goes to 920s or even 8 plus, and you say that's bad. Honestly, I think you should check your strategy. Just because a particular round trip down does not mean that it's bad. Well, it's going to be bad, of course, if you add over here. But how is it bad if you add over here and it goes up to 9 plus? How is that bad? Are you going to tell me that SMX over here is a bad trade right now because it's at 1 plus when last year, this ticker, oh my god, hold on a second. This ticker is crazy. When last year this ticker went all the way from $57 to 2,000, right? I think this is split adjusted, right? But last year this ticker went from 57 to $2,000. And just because it's 1,650 right now doesn't mean that over here this is a bad trade. No, it's not. Right? It's only bad if you execute it wrongly. It's only bad if you start to add this over here at 9 plus. Then of course it's bad because you're chasing the move. But remember, setup over here was given to you guys at 8. The move happened 30 minutes after. If you say this is bad, there's something wrong with you. All right, there's absolutely something wrong with you. Or maybe there's something wrong with the execution. Yeah, because you're chasing the top. BYND is not something I want to touch right now. I think it's way too crowded because you can see it's just too fresh stuff over here. I'm not a fan of that. Yeah. You didn't see that at 18, where was it? No, I didn't really tell you guys that I was adding an 18th, right? But I did tell you guys, just take all the dips that you guys want. But even if let's say you guys didn't take dips, you should be green over here anyway. So should be no excuse, right? The plan was given very clear to you guys for uh what's that? For HTCO, right? And on open and find all the dips you can get. Stop loss is under 1850, but then because we halted underneath that, I told you guys, you know what? I'm probably gonna hold on to this, right? Sorry, I'm gonna hold on to this. I'll close it out if we lose 1550 instead. So if you plan to take dips, those are great. If you didn't plan to take dips while you took it at 26 or whatever, 24s, this is still a very nice big trade for you. I didn't really trade GLND this morning, right? I was just sharing the idea with you guys. It kind of popped on news. I think it was good. But I probably would have just taken it if we break this. Well, because this is a news pop, right? I have to revisit. I would have taken this over here if so, right? I probably wouldn't have taken this before after the news pop and whatnot. But it was too low of a volume for me to be too interested in this. Anyway, right? USAC, I'm not a fan. I try to avoid oil and energy tickers. I think it's getting too way too heavy. It was a nice pre-market move, but it's not something sustainable. I trim a lot of those for sure. I didn't trade USAC. This one? Well, because I wasn't around. It's just because I wasn't around. That's it. I didn't trade USAC because I wasn't around. I was out celebrating my dad's birthday. Uh, spec play. I didn't mention anything about spec today, right? Hey, thank you, appreciate it, thank you. Hey, by the way, who is this LK person? I need to remove this person from the everything else, man. Because the fuck, who is this LK person? You guys know? Oh, spec. Oh, right. Yeah, sorry, my bad. Um, yeah, honestly, for Poet right now, I'll probably just like avoid because honestly, I think one of the things, okay, a good company can be destroyed if the management sucks. Now, we gave this as a long-term play. Well, I think this is still a very good play for us at the end of the day. If you guys chased it, honestly, that's really on you. But when the move happened, okay, we added this over here. Let me see. Fuck. Okay. We started over here at 618. So again, 618. And then even on the dips and whatnot, we kept telling guys, you know what? We're gonna add more. We're gonna add more. We're gonna add more, right? We're gonna add more. Okay. And we're gonna add more. So this was 1 month ago. And obviously, we got paid really nicely when we hit $17 and stuff, right? More than 200%. But I think one of the important things is that when a company management sucks, right? It doesn't really matter how good the product is. Eh, if it's not utilized well, if the management doesn't know how to navigate through, then it's going to be very difficult for the company to recover. It's not impossible, but it's difficult, right? Um, I think a lot of this right now hinges on whether they can get uh, more contracts and stuff. Because at the end of the day, this is still a very asymmetrical high beta setup, right? Photonics play, it's not something that is, well known. It's financially, fundamentally speaking, it's not good. This is mostly based on hype, and right now one of the biggest orders with Marvel just got destroyed. It just got removed. It's not something that is fundamentally sound. And the reason, look, the reason why the orders got removed is because um the reason why the orders got removed is because the I think the CFO kind of leaked out information that's not supposed to be. And I don't think that's a very smart thing to do. I mean, that guy could have just kept his mouth fucking shut. Back in I think last week there was an interview with Stock Tweets, right? The CFO was saying that, hey, we got some contracts with Marvel, so on and so forth. They were not supposed to say that. And because of that, I think they pull out the stuff because of some breach of contract. And again, this is gonna hurt this company's reputation because Marvel, I'm not even. It's not gonna be. It's gonna be hard for them to even establish a trust back again. I think even they said so themselves. Let me see. Okay, look, Poet emphasized its continued development of his patented Poet optical interposer platform. Now the product is there. This is we have to give it right. This is the product is there. Okay. However, the company acknowledged significant risk, noting that there is no assurance it can re-establish its relationship with Marvel. I mean, I'm pretty sure the CFO probably fucking knows that he's not supposed to say that, right? Obviously, we wouldn't know that. When he said that, we thought this is gonna be fine, but the deal was with them. I'm pretty sure there was a clause saying that, hey, please don't say any of this stuff, but he fucking said it for the interview. So, I think this is fucking stupid, right? It's I would say probably just avoid for now. I mean, they do have earnings coming up. If let's say the earnings numbers are good and whatnot, they do show a lot more orders coming from different technology companies and whatnot, right? And I think we can always look for it to go back into a long because remember at the end of the day, the product's still there. But I don't know, this management seems fucking brain dead at the right now. Right? This management seems fucking brain dead. So I don't know if I wanna put too much faith into into the setup and stuff. Okay. Yeah. I mean, you can definitely wait. There's really no. I mean, 400 million in cash doesn't really mean anything, because you can have a lot of cash, but the company isn't making money. I think that's what matters, and it doesn't matter. Okay, I would say if you guys look at AAOI, this company, right? This ticker had a huge run from $1.60 only because its earnings. They talked about how they were over booked on on their products or whatever they're supposed to do, right? The demand was crazy. If Poet can present something like that for their earnings right now, then fine. But they have to be smart about their wording and stuff because they're fucking stupid. Yeah, there's no real revenue. Honestly, most of these companies over here do not have real revenue. Right? I'm not a fan of this. Volume's way too low for me. Right? Most of these companies over here, AOI, okay, they don't have revenue. Or even if they have revenue, um, I don't think they're profitable. They're really just running based on hype as of right now. Right? Right now, they're just running based on hype. Again, we've seen so many times that hype drives short-term price action, right? If not, why would SGMT run like that this morning? It's because of volume and hype. Why would HTCO run like that? It's because of volume and hype, right? The company doesn't need to make money for the stock price to go up because there's traders, there's algorithms, there's hype to drive price up. Okay, but in the long run, if they cannot deliver, the stock price will always revert back to what the company's value at. It might take a while, it might take forever, it doesn't matter, right? But eventually it will recover. I mean, it will revert back. So I would say that point right now, products still there. They still have the 5 million um contract, but again, their market cap is 2.3 billion. I think right now it's a little bit lower, but it's not substantial enough to really be like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna fucking push this shit. So you probably can wait for their earnings and see what to say before you start making a decision over here again. Okay, all right. If not, I think that's pretty much it for today.